Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll walk you through how to design a website pop-up like this, which I believe you must have seen on a couple of websites, prompting you to take certain actions. So in essence, these are basically call to action windows that overlays a web page under specific triggers or conditions. And after creating this, we'll also take a look at how we can trigger this pop-up to appear under specific conditions, like a user's exit intent, for example, or an inactivity on a website. So with that said, the one thing we'll be needing to create this will be the pro version of Elementor. A link to that will be provided in the description box below, or you can visit the link victorchinedu.com/Elementor. This is actually my affiliate link, and by using it, I would earn a little commission to help support the channel. Once we're brought to the Elementor official website, select pricing, and from here pick out the plan that best suits your need. Now once we've got that sorted out, let's head back to our website backend to get started. Okay, so once we've got the pro version of Elementor installed on our website, we want to hover over templates to select add new. So I'm just going to open this up in a new tab. Now once this loads up, it's going to bring up this pop-up interface, so we can simply choose our template type. So I'm just going to click on this and then select pop-up. Now in here, we simply need to title our template. So I'm just going to put in discount pop-up and then select create template. And this is simply going to bring us to the number of templates that are available on the pro version of Elementor. But since we're going to be creating everything from scratch, I'm just going to close this up and we can start out making customizations to our pop-up. So the very first thing we want to do in here is to come down to settings. So I'm just going to click on settings. And in here for our layout width, we want to change this to 650. And for our height, we want to leave this to fit to content, though we can make further customizations by selecting the fit to screen, and this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like. We also have the option to set a custom height to this, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to stick with fit to content. Now, if we wanted to make further customizations to the positioning horizontally, we can change this to left. We can also change this to right. Since we're going to be using the center option, I'm just going to leave that to center. And for the vertical positioning, we want to leave this to the center as well. Now I want to leave this to show. So if we toggle this to no, this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like. So I'm just going to leave this to show, and the close button, we want that. So I'm just going to leave that as is. Now for the entrance animation, we want to select default and we want to change this to fade in. And for the exit animation, we want to change this to fade out. Now for the animation duration, we want to make this 1.5. So I'm just going to make this 1.5. For the general settings, there isn't much customizations to be made here. This is simply our pop-up title and the status of our pop-up. We have this as draft. So I'm just going to leave that as draft because we're going to be publishing this later on. So let's move on to style. Now moving on to styling this pop-up, we have the option to make customizations to our background. So just as we have here, if we select the classic option, we have the option to change the background color in here, but we're just going to leave this to white. And if we wanted to add an image here, we can simply click on choose, and I can just pick out an image to click on insert media. And this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like. So we can make customizations to this by changing this to center. And for the repeat, we can change this to no repeat. Size, we can change this to cover, and we can make further customizations here. But since we're not going to be needing that, I'm just going to close this up. And for the border type, we're just going to leave this to none. Border radius, none. Now for the overlay, if we wanted to make customizations to the background overlay, we can simply make those customizations here. So just as we did for the pop-up background, if we clicked on choose image, and then I select an image to click on insert media, this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like. Now, since we're not going to be using this option, I'm just going to delete this, and then we want to come down to the close button. Now, this is the option we want to make customizations to. So for the positioning, we want to leave this to inside, and for the vertical position, we want to make this to 1.5%. And for the horizontal position, we want to make this 1%. Now, once we're done making customization to that, we want to come down to our color and background color. So we're just going to leave the color of this button to default, and the background color, we want to make this white. So I'm just going to select white. And for the button size, we want to make this 15 pixels. Now, once we're done making customizations to the pop-up settings, let's move on to adding in our widgets. So I'm just going to come down to our Elementor widget. And for the very first widget we want to add in will be the image. But just before we do that, let's add in a new section, and we want to select the structure type. So I'm just going to come back to our widgets, and then drag the image widget into this column. Now I'm just going to click on choose image. Now this could be relatively any image, but for the sake of this video, we're just going to go with this. So I'm just going to click on insert media, and this is how it's going to be looking like. Now the next thing we want to do is to add in an inner section directly under this image widget. So I'm just going to head back to our widget and drag in the inner section directly under our image. Now we can start out adding our text and form widget. So I'm just going to come back to our widget and then add in a heading into this column. Now lest I forget, we want to make this column 45%. So I'm just going to enter in 45% in there. Now let's move on to styling our text. So I'm just going to click on this. Now for this text, we want to add in join our newsletter to get 30% discount. So I'm just going to enter that in here. Okay, so once we've done that, let's move on to styling our text. So I'm just going to come down to style. And for the text color, we want to make this hashtag 232323. Okay, so once we've done that, let's move on to styling our typography. So I'm just going to click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, we want to make this archival black. So I'm just going to select this. And for the font size, we want to make this 16 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to leave this to 600. Now for the line height, we want to make this 1.5 em. So I'm just going to add that in there. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to add in a break between join our newsletters and to get 30% discount. So I'm just going to come back to content, and in between this, we want to add in greater than, less than, and in between we want to add in a BR, which means break. So I'm just going to put that in there. Okay, so that's pretty much how it's going to be looking like. Now let's move on to adding in our forms into this column. So I'm just going to come back to widgets and search for forms. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this into this column, and then we can simply delete the message and the name. Now this is our form name, so I'm just going to open this up, and for the type, we want to make sure to leave this as email, and for the label, we want to leave this to email, though I'm not going to be needing this, so I'm just going to change the placeholder to enter your email. Okay, so once we've done that, we want to make sure to leave this to required, and for the column width, we want to make this 75%, and for the input size, we want to make this medium, and for the label, which is this text in here, we want to make sure to toggle this to hide. Okay, so let's move on to our button. So I'm just going to open that up, and for the size, we want to make sure this is equal to our field, so we're just going to make this medium, and for the column width, we want to make this 20%. And for the alignment, we want to leave this to justified. And for the step buttons, we want to make sure to delete all this text in here. And also for the submit button, we want to make sure to remove this. So I'm just going to highlight that and click on delete. Now for our icon, we want to click on the icon library and want to search for envelope. So I'm just going to select this and then click on insert. Now that is going to appear there. So for the icon position, we want to leave this to before, and we're not going to be making customizations to this. Now let's move on to actions after submit. So I'm just going to open this up. Now in here, we want to make sure to leave these two options as is. So we want to collect submissions at our website backend, and we want to send an email notification. So I'm just going to leave this to email. Now I want to add 3 more options. So I'm just going to click on this and want to select email to. So what this does is to send an email to the user that actually submits their email into this field. Next, we want to add in actions of MailChimp and Popup. So I'm just going to click on the plus icon and then search for Popup. So I'm just going to click on this. Now we have the collect submissions, the email, which is where the admin email notification is sent to, and the email to is the notification that is actually sent to the user after they've submitted an email into this field. And for the MailChimp, this is the action that is necessary for collecting emails to build up our email list. And for the Popup, we want to carry out an action of closing this entire Popup interface after a user submits an email into this field. Now I'm going to be leaving links in the description box to how you can be able to make configurations to the email to, and the MailChimp settings. Now let's move on to the pop-up option. So I'm just going to open this up, and under actions, we want to choose to close this pop-up whenever a user submits his or her email into this field. Now in here where it says don't show again, So relatively what this means is whenever a user submits his or her email into this field, we don't want this pop-up to appear again. So I'm just going to toggle this to yes. Now we don't really have much to do here, so we're just going to leave the step settings and additional options to default. Now let's move on to styling our form. So I'm just going to come down to style. And for the column gap, we want to make sure to remove the gap between the button and the field. So I'm just going to make this 0. Now the other options are irrelevant since we don't have the label here, and the HTML field, we are not going to be making customizations to that. So let's move on to the field option. Now for the text color, I want to leave this to hashtag 7A, 7A, 7A. Now moving on to our typography, we want to click on this pencil icon. And for the font family, we want to make this Source Sans Pro. So I'm just going to select this option. And for the size, we want to make this 14 pixels. And for the weight, we want to leave this to 400. Now moving on to our background color, we want to make sure to leave this to white. And for the border color, we want to make this hashtag BC, BC, BC. So that will be triple BCs. Okay, so moving on to our border width, we want to make this 1 all round. So for the top, 1, right 1, bottom 1, and the left 1. So for the border radius, we want to make this 0 pixels around. And that's pretty much the entire styling for this field. So let's move on to buttons. So I'm just going to click on this. Now for our typography, we want to click on the pencil icon. And for our font family, we want to make this Roboto. Font size, we want to make this 16 pixels. And for the font weight, we want to leave this to 500. Now moving on to our border type, we want to make sure to change this to solid. And for the width, we want to make this 1 pixels while getting rid of the border to the left. So I'm just going to unlink all values here and want to make this 0. Okay, so for the background color, I want to make this white. So I'm just going to change this to white. And for the text color, I want to make this black. Now for the border color, we want to make this hashtag BC, BC, BC. And we want to repeat the same for our previous buttons. So I'm just going to make this white. And for our text color, we want to make this black. And for the border color, we want to make this triple BCs. Okay, so if we hover over this, we can see our icon disappear. So we want to come down to hover. And want to repeat the same process in here. So for the background color, we want to make this white. For our text color, we want to make this black. For the border color, we want to make this hashtag triple BC. Okay, and for our background color, we want to repeat the same as we did for the normal. So this will be white, text color black, and the border color hashtag triple BC. Okay, so once we're done with that, we want to move on to normal. And for our border radius, we want to make this 0. And also for our text padding, we want to make this 0 as well. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We're not going to be making customizations to the message and steps. Now, the last thing we want to do before we condition this to appear on our website is to make customizations to our close button. Now, for us to do that, we're going to be applying a little bit of CSS. So I'm just going to click on the preview icon and then select preview. So this is going to open up a new tab. Now let's right click on our close button and then select inspect. Now for us to be able to apply this CSS, we can simply click on this icon with a window. So I'm just going to click on that and then select our close button. So I'm just going to click on that. And in here, we want to select the div option. So I'm just going to click on div. Now in here where it says new style row, we want to click on this plus icon. And we can simply click anywhere in this box and then add in padding to the left. So I'm just going to add in padding to the left. And I want to make this 8 pixels. And I want to add another padding to the bottom. So I'm just going to put in padding bottom. And then I want to make this 8 pixels as well. And this is pretty much how it's going to be looking like after we're done adding in our CSS. So I'm just going to highlight all of this and then right click to copy this and then close out of this window. For us to be able to apply this on our website, we simply need to come back to our design canvas, and in here where it says settings, we want to click on that, or we can simply click on this settings icon and then want to come down to advanced. So just like I said before, we're going to be making use of the custom CSS. So we want to open this up and then paste the CSS code we just copied, and we can see this is applied here as well. So we simply need to click on publish to have this saved on our website. Now once we're done creating the pop-up, let's move on to conditioning this on our website. First, we have conditions that allows us set where we want the pop-up to appear on. So let's click on add condition. And from here, we have the option to either include or exclude the pop-up on the entire website, specific pages or posts. But since we want this to appear on the website homepage, I'll just select singular, and from here select front page. We could also get specific with where we want this to appear, be it the website posts, pages or media. Say for example, we wanted this to appear on the website homepage, I'll just select pages and then search for homepage. Once you've selected where you want the pop-up to appear on, just click on next. Now in the trigger tab, let us trigger the pop-up to appear under these conditions. I wouldn't be going into in-depth explanation for this since they are pretty self-explanatory, but let's just quickly run through them. So for the first, if this is turned on, we get to set the time of seconds to wait upon page load before the pop-up is triggered. The second, let us select the direction and the amount in percentage to scroll before the pop-up is triggered. The third option, let us enter the number of clicks a user carries out on the website before the pop-up is triggered. The fourth triggers the pop-up after a certain time is reached when there are no user activity on the website. The fifth is probably my favorite since it triggers the pop-up when a user's mouse activity indicates the intent to leave the page, so I'll just turn this on and then select next. Now for the advanced rules, I'll be leaving a link to where you can learn more about this, although self-explanatory, but since we're not going to be needing any of this, let's just click on save and close. Now let's put this to the test to see if this actually works as we intended. So let's head on to our website homepage. And the trigger we selected will be on page exit intent. So once this loads up, and with the intent of leaving this page, the pop-up is automatically triggered, which naturally draws back the attention of the user to the action I want them to carry out, which in this case will be submitting their email address to get a discount. So you might be wondering, how does the user actually get the email containing the discounted offer after submitting their email into this field? Like I said, I'll be leaving a link to that in the description box below, as well as the cards in this video. And that's pretty much it for this video. If you got value, please feel free to leave a thumbs up. You can also hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell, so when I put out more videos like this, you would get notified. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.